It sticks with me like it was yesterday.
The last time I'm going to tell you, I will tase you. Do exactly what she tells you to do.
I remember everything.
You have to take it out. I can't take it out. Can you give me something to take it out with?
I can remember the faces of the guards.
I want to go to sleep, man. I just want to go to sleep. God.
I felt really embarrassed. And I felt like crap.
So this is the last time.
I don't care, man. Taste my stomach. All right. Oh.
It hurt really bad. It burned. Like I was on fire. Like my chest was on fire. It hurt really bad.
Resist her in any way or I will get you again.
I feel like you should use a taser if someone is charging at you or threatening your life or, you know, or to get them to go down.
Take your tongue ring out.
I don't think you should use a taser for somebody that's not doing anything, you know, unlawful. Like, I'm not breaking the law. I just couldn't get my tongue ring out.
Dang, that's all you had to do.
Martini Smith was 20 years old and pregnant.
Oh, my God.
She survived the taser shot, but miscarried and lost her baby.
I'm about to have a seizure, God.
Smith was booked into the Franklin County Jail in Columbus, Ohio in 2009. She was charged with stabbing a boyfriend she accused of abusing her. The charges were later dropped, but the scars, both physical and emotional, remain.
Y'all wasn't supposed to tase me.
Smith was not alone. She and other inmates filed a lawsuit claiming guards at the jail used their tasers in a callous and sadistic manner.
Stand up, dude, or I'm going to taser you again right now.
I can't feel my legs, man. I can't.
There was a pattern of them using tasers in entirely unnecessary and inappropriate ways.
I can't move.
These videos, some of which have never been seen before, illustrate the claims.
Now sit down.
Inmates who were stunned for not following commands.
Sit down.
Some were impaired by drugs or alcohol.
All right, brother. Here you go.
Or simply mouthing off.
When I'm done, I'll give me the code. Taser.
One man was deaf.
Did that soften him up?
Yeah.
The sheriff's office said each incident was a justified use of force and denied all wrongdoing.
I was asleep.
The U.S. Justice Department intervened on behalf of the inmates and the county agreed to settle. Smith was paid $27,500. Her case is one of hundreds cited by Reuters of alleged taser misuse in U.S. jails.
Oh,
It can be a recipe for disaster.
Eric Balaban with the American Civil Liberties Union specializes in prisons. He says without proper oversight, tasers can often be misused in a correctional setting.
There's a place for tasers, but it has to be extremely well regulated. Officers have to be well trained in their use, and their use has to be effectively audited by correctional professionals and supervisors.
When that doesn't happen, Reuters found it can lead to accusations of torture or abuse, and in some cases, death. Axon, the weapons manufacturer, says tasers are an effective tool for jail and prison guards who typically do not carry guns. They say the weapons also provide another option for controlling combative inmates. But Reuters has documented the cases of 104 inmates who died after they were stunned with the taser in jails and prisons across the U.S., often in combination with other types of force. Those deaths are among more than 1,000 fatal police encounters uncovered by Reuters in which the weapons were used. All of the inmates who died were unarmed, except for 2. Some were in handcuffs. Others were pinned to the ground by officers or restrained. That's what happened in Tennessee, where guards repeatedly stunned Jordan Norris, who was strapped to a chair. The jail had been using tasers for just under a year. The teen survived and filed a lawsuit alleging excessive force.
Calm down.
The case was settled, but one of the 3 guards still faces criminal charges.
Take these out and put one on the wall at a time.
In Ozark, Arkansas, 20-year-old Cody Franklin was arrested but never made it back home.
They say this is an in-custody death, This is an in-custody murder.
Franklin was brought into the county jail in 2016 after a deputy saw him wandering along a rural road. Suspecting he was high on drugs, the deputy arrested him on a misdemeanor charge. Records show Franklin began fighting with other inmates. Officers tried to pull him from the cell. A struggle ensued. He was stunned with the taser 5 times and dragged to another cell. Guards shocked him 3 more times. The young cowboy who trained and shoed horses with his dad never regained consciousness.
When Cody died, they left him laying on a concrete floor. And then they refused to allow his family to come and see him. They didn't have the right to do that to my boy.
The sheriff and police denied any misconduct. The county prosecutor declined to charge the officers, citing insufficient evidence. Franklin's parents filed a wrongful death suit. But his death raises larger concerns. Corrections officers are supposed to be retrained and recertified on tasers each year, a guideline set by Axon. But in Franklin's case, records showed the officer who delivered the final shocks hadn't been recertified on the weapon in more than 4 years.
There really hasn't been a national movement and acceptance among correctional professionals as to what has to be done to ensure that tasers are used appropriately.
And that can have costly consequences. Reuters found that when an inmate dies after a taser is used, a lawsuit and public payout often follow. The numbers reflect the legal challenges of deploying tasers behind bars. Inmates are rarely armed and often under some form of control. Corey Carter had been sitting calmly in a restraint chair for nearly 4 hours. His battle with schizophrenia was well known to his jailers in Oklahoma. But when he refused to change into prison garb, he was wrestled to the ground and repeatedly stunned. Carter was pronounced dead the next day. The county district attorney said the jailers did nothing wrong and declined to prosecute the case. His family filed a lawsuit. The county settled for $200,000.
Stop kicking! Put your foot down!
In Franklin County, Ohio, officials declined to comment on the incidents of alleged taser misuse. After settling the lawsuit in 2011, the county prohibited guards from using tasers on prisoners who pose no reasonable threat or those not resisting with physical force.
Stand up!
When forced to abide by the court-ordered settlement, Reuters found the jail hardly used the weapons at all.
The frequency in particular was like almost a cliff kind of situation. We went from about 1 a week to maybe a few a year.
But in the rare instances when tasers were used, guards still struggled to use them properly. In one instance, an officer stunned an inmate already pinned down by guards. In another case, guards dogpiled an inmate, threw punches, and then deployed the taser.
Put your hands behind your back!
Franklin County said taser use in both cases was justified, but an expert hired by lawyers to review the case disagreed when Reuters showed him the videos. Rose West never saw what happened to her daughter Wendy until we showed her.
Please don't hit me.
It was just wrong. It was just wrong.
I'm scared.
Wendy died from an unrelated drug overdose 3 years ago, but her mother hopes what happened to her daughter and other inmates in Franklin County will sound an alarm
I can't breathe.
for correctional authorities across the country about the use and abuse of tasers behind bars.
I told you not to stand up. You didn't understand, did you?